Hello there and welcome to the EDC Empire. Today we are going to be taking a look at the Spyderco Para 3 and the Para 3 Lightweight. Obviously, these are very well known models. I haven't really seen many people saying that they dislike them as a platform. So, spoiler alert, they're both really good models. If you like them, go for them if you didn't already know that somehow. So that's not really what we're going to be doing. I am going to go over the details and measurements of both. They're pretty much the same in most measurements, at least. But I also then want to get into a little bit of discussion about where the Para 3 sits and the Para 3 Lightweight sits in kind of Spyderco's hierarchy, and whether they both still hold up. I mean, especially the Para 3 is a pretty old model. The Lightweight is newer, definitely. But because it's newer, it hasn't really gotten the same attention, I would say, that certain other ones have. Most people still go for the Para 3. And honestly, after experiencing both, there's advantages to both, and I think the Lightweight is a little bit underappreciated. So I want to talk about that and kind of introduce a new kind of style of video to the EDC Empire. If you enjoy this video, let me know. I have a whole bunch of other things I can talk about in terms of Spyderco's lineups, other companies' lineups, and I'd be very interested in doing that because content's pretty difficult if you're just going to be or if you're only going to be doing reviews constantly. So if you enjoy this type of thing, comment down below, let me know, and let me know if there's anything you'd like to kind of hear my thoughts on, or yeah, start a conversation. Without further ado, let's get into the details. So both the Para 3 and the Para 3 Lightweight are going to be made in USA, and they're both running on washers with a compression lock. The only real difference is that the Lightweight is running on a single washer as opposed to the double washer setup, or more standard washer setup on the normal Para 3, and that the Lightweight has kind of a weird bent compression lock, which we'll get into later on. They can both be deployed with either the compression lock, kind of like that, or their thumb hole, and they both have fully flat ground, I guess, clip point blades that come down to a reasonably thin edge and reasonably thin tip. Pretty standard setup for both of these. Kind of the cool thing about the Para 3 is, one, the ergos, and also it's been around, especially the normal one, for so long that there is so many steel variants. If you want normal stuff, go S30V, S45VN. But if you want something more kind of fun and interesting, they have S110V, Maxamet, M4, CRU-WEAR, MagnaCut, which isn't that special, but you can get it. And so there's a whole bunch of different steels. There's a whole bunch I haven't even mentioned. And so if you want to try a steel and you also want to try the Para 3, chances is you'll be able to find it. In fact, I got this variant because I wanted to try Maxamet, and it was basically the only thing I could try Maxamet on. Handle materials. I mean, Lightweight is going to be full FRN with this nice texturing. There are no steel liners on it. And then the standard variant are going to have G10 or Micarta scales with milled steel liners for weight reduction. A pretty standard setup for the Para 3. The overall length is going to be 7.19 inches when opened and 4.29 when folded closed. The overall depth when folded is 1.62 inches, which is pretty much in line, just slightly smaller than the PM2, which you don't really hear many complaints about in terms of carrying the PM2, so carrying the Para 3 is not difficult at all. Width around the pivot is 0.45, which is pretty standard for that around half an inch width that you'll see many kind of commercial pocket knives to be at. And then you have an overall length of 2.90 inches. Getting into some size comparisons, we have the PM2 and where to go? Para 3 Lightweight. Yes, two of the same knives are being shown here, but I really just want to make sure that you can see that the Para 3 Lightweight and the Para 3 really are the same, and that's kind of how they mesh up. Getting into two more size comparisons. We have the Benchmade Bug Out and the Delica 4. What we can see here is Bug Out is pretty similar in size, maybe slightly larger, but looks to be pretty much the same. And then the Delica is also pretty much the same. They're all very, very similarly sized knives. And then we have the QSP Penguin and the CVV Elementum, and what we can see here is, again, all pretty much the same. Kind of looks like the QSP is slightly smaller, and the Elementum is pretty dang similar. But they're all very, very similarly sized. And then we have a, like I mentioned, we have a blade length of 2.90 inches, and then an edge length of 2.6. So you are losing a little bit of edge length for that very nice finger choil. And then we have a blade stock of 1.45 inches, which means it's a little bit thicker than what I've kind of found to be the average of 0.12, 0.125 inches, but honestly not bad. And I can't complain when the edge is kind of the perfect thickness in my mind. Then we have a weight with the standard variant of the Para 3 at 3.50 ounces, which is not bad at all for the blade to weight ratio. But the lightweight absolutely destroys it in that factor of being 2.39 ounces, which is just awesome for blade to weight ratio. And you definitely do notice that while carrying. So I'm just going to be honest. The Para 3, it's a well-known model. It's good. I'm not going to debate that. I like the Para 3 platform, and I think it functions as a nice everyday carry just option. I mean, I've carried mine a lot, and there's really no complaints here. However, like I mentioned, the Para 3 is the older variant, and more people have them. And so I think, I mean, it's often what is recommended, and I don't see the kind of distinction that the lightweight is actually a fantastic model. I mean, they're both really good, but if you want to try the Para 3, I think that they're both good. So, firstly, what is the starting price for both? Well, I'm just going to go off Blade HQ prices. Pretty much all retailers are going to be about the same. The lightweight standard variant with CTS BD1N is going to be $133. And then the Para 3 normal with CPM S45VN, G10 scales, steel liners is $187. So about a $50 difference for S45VN, and you get steel and G10. So arguably a much better base price. And I would agree that on just base specs, the Para 3 is a better buy. However, when you consider that for $15 more than the standard variant with BD1N, you can get MagnaCut, the salt variant with MagnaCut from Spyderco. So it's going to be well heat-treated MagnaCut on the lightweight platform for, again, $15 more than the standard variant. That seems like a deal to me. I would much rather have the lightweight with MagnaCut than S45VN on the standard variant. And that comes down to, I like how the lightweight feels in the hand just a little bit more. It has this contouring. It has a slight bit of flex, which doesn't feel great sometimes, but it doesn't flex as much as like sometimes the bug out can, for example. And it doesn't feel flimsy. Like I don't think it feels bad light. I don't think it feels cheap at all. I mean, Spyderco does a nice job with their FRN. This is a well-known thing, and I really like how the Para 3 lightweight feels. And so if I were going to recommend a model, I would totally recommend the lightweight variant with MagnaCut. You're going to get arguably a more interesting steel, along with a steel that I prefer slightly for everyday, just for the attributes of corrosion resistance for MagnaCut. And you're not really sacrificing like any durability with the FRN. The only thing that I can see being a disadvantage is that instead of it being a full steel liner for the compression lock, you do just have a little piece of bent steel being held in with a screw right here and a little peg. Admittedly, not the greatest setup. However, I mean, I've never had any issues with it. I've used them pretty much equally hard, so nothing insane, but pretty decent use. And I don't think for most people that is going to be a killing point. And when you can save a good amount of money, I don't see a disadvantage. I mean, the Para 3 jumps up in price. If you want anything unique in steel, you're going to be spending $230 plus. I mean, this right here, the Maxamet variant, is $265. Again, I only bought this variant because I wanted Maxamet, and I'm very glad I did, because this Para 3 is buttery smooth. It almost feels like it's on bearings how smooth it is. So no complaints there. However, that's a lot of money. I mean, okay, if you want to consider kind of interest, or $230 to $150, for example, is a huge difference in price. And I think for most people, the lightweight is going to be the better buy. It's slightly more comfortable, in my opinion, at least. I find it to be more comfortable. The contouring, the texturing feels really nice, and also you get the wire clip, which doesn't kind of dig into your hand as much. So it's more comfortable, slightly cheaper. You can get MagnaCut and a couple other pretty interesting steels for around $150, and you're not really sacrificing much in terms of durability. However, the Para 3 is still a fantastic platform and really does have kind of three main draws to me. One, you still get way more options in terms of exotic steels. You have the S110V. You have CRU-WEAR. You cannot have Micarta on this, so you can't have CRU-WEAR. And I don't even think there's CRU-WEAR variants for the lightweight. And there's no Maxamet variants, as I mentioned. And there's a whole bunch of other steels that you can only get on the Para 3. So there's that. Also, customizability. You can get aftermarket scales for the lightweight, but I don't know if I would. I mean, the FRN's perfectly fine, and if you're going to customize, okay, just splurge the extra amount of money for the normal Para 3. There's more options, they're better, and you're just going to be happier overall. And then also, I will admit that the Para 3 has much better action. Admittedly, this is like the best Spyderco out of the box I have ever felt. There is no blade play, and it is that smooth. I mean, comparing it to like my PM2, which I've carried a lot more, probably total, because I've had this PM2 for a lot longer. They're equal-ish, but I would still consider the Para 3 to be slightly smoother. And this is just never going to be as smooth. One, it has DLC, so it's going to take longer to break in, but also the single washer and one side is running, I want to say, I think the washer is on this side, and then it's running on the steel, I guess it's kind of a liner. It basically provides some durability for the lockup pin. So it's never going to be as smooth. It doesn't feel awful. Also, by the way, it's never going to be centered because the blade is physically not centered in the handles either. So you're going to have a very hard time if you ever want your blade tip to be centered. I mean, you can tell here, it's not awful, but it's still not quite there, which I don't mind, but keep that in mind as well. So better action, more customizability, and more exotic steels. That's what you're getting in the Para 3 compared to the lightweight. I think for most people, if you're not a knife guy, the recommendation of the lightweight is just a better thing. Most people aren't going to care or want to customize their knife, or they're not going to begin and expect to fidget. And this still gets you the fidgetability, just not as smooth and luxurious. So I think the lightweight really is for most people, not knife people, the better buy. So if you're going to recommend the Para 3 to somebody, which I definitely do, that's my point, is that the lightweight is the better variant for that. For knife people, yes, the normal Para 3 is going to be the better buy. But for most people, the lightweight. However, what about the budget offerings? What about something like the Alcyone? This is made in China. We've had a review on it, so if you want to hear our thoughts on it, look at it. Look at our review. It's Alcyone. And made in China. Right now, it's $86 on Blade HQ, CTS BD1N, so same steel as what is on this Para 3 lightweight. However, it has steel liners, G10, and two washers. So basically, main difference is it's a liner lock and made in China, and you get the quote-unquote more premium materials. So in theory, like basically the same size as well. In theory, then, I would recommend the Alcyone. However, it has better materials. It has... on paper, the Alcyone is better. However, the lightweight somehow manages to feel better. It's not that I prefer FRN over G10, for example. I vastly prefer, in most cases, G10. However, the Para 3 has a certain level of quality to it, but also I think the design pulls it forward enough that the extra $50 in that case is worth it to me. If I were asked by somebody who wanted to get a pocket knife, I'm considering the Alcyone or some other budget Spyderco around the same price. There's a whole bunch, so pick your poison. Or the Para 3 lightweight. Which would you get? I would have to save up a little bit more for the Para 3. That's fine. I would pretty much always recommend the Para 3 unless they really, really want a G10. Because, I mean, you're actually getting a slightly better customizable platform. You still can get cool scales and whatnot. You're getting the compression lock, which currently at least is still pretty unique to Spyderco. I mean, the patent is now out on it. There are other companies that do it, but you're getting to experience the compression lock. You're getting kind of this. I don't want to say quintessential Spyderco package, but you are getting a very classic Spyderco package. And you are actually gaining something other than being made in the USA. It is noticeably better quality. I wish I could describe how just meh the Alcyone feels, especially when you can get for like $30 a QSP Penguin, or you can get a Civivi Elementum, both of which are also made in China but feel so much better. So I have to recommend, I honestly think that the Para 3, because of it just feeling better, you get the compression lock, you get more customization if you do decide that that's something, a route that you want to go. And I think overall ergos also feel better. I think the lightweight is just kind of an awesome budget, not budget. It's not a budget offering, but a fantastic offering to somebody who's getting into knives. Instead of getting a bug out, for example, I think the Para 3 lightweight is honestly the better buy. Actually, for the same price, or actually cheaper, for $150, you can get MagnaCut on the Para 3, both of which are FRN. So they're actually surprisingly comparable. And I think that the Para 3 lightweight is a really, really good offering. Of course, the Para 3 is arguably better as a package, but I really, really am impressed by the Para 3 lightweight. And I think it deserves more of a spotlight. But I think the issue is that a lot of people, like me, who are doing the videos or who are just talking a lot about it on forums and Reddit and Discords and whatnot, are big knife people and are like, well, the Para 3 objectively is a better buy, which it is. But for value, if you want to try a cool steel and want to get into the market, I think that the lightweight is a really, really good first buy. Comment down below what you think about it, though. Maybe this is just a little bit of a weird take and no one else is going to agree, but I would be really interested to hear what y'all think. And if you enjoy this style of content, comment below kind of some topics and what you'd like to hear from me or just in general. Kind of bring up some stuff to talk about. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing as well. Thanks for watching.